Well, this is my family, and I'm going to introduce you to my daughter, Chloe. Chloe is our firstborn, and I remember the moment when we prayed for the first time and say, God, we think it's time. Would you send us a little girl? And God sure did, a girl. Her name, Chloe, means fresh young blossom and father's joy. And Chloe is now almost 22 one of these days. And she has been and is such a delight to her dad's heart. And then we've got Caleb. You want to introduce Caleb?
Yeah, well, let me first say, when Chloe was born, she was born to a time in our lives that was overflow and abundant. Her nursery had everything that could squeak and jump, and everything was automated. And some of you have seen the picture of Pierre breaking a hole from our master bedroom into the nursery so that he could hear her cry. That was a great season for us. But when I fell pregnant with my gorgeous son, 7.5 months pregnant, we did not have a home. We were between countries, and I was on an international flight when I went into early labor with him. And so had Caleb in the hospital, and he had nothing. Where his sister had everything. My son was born into this world with a little teddy bear that my sister had brought to the hospital. In the first few weeks of his life, actually the first few months, he spent sleeping in a laundry basket. And I look at him today and I think I know why back then when I held my little boy in my arms back in that really unsure season of life, I knew that God was with me, because there was something about the promise that I was holding, this legacy of this son. And Caleb has made me as a mommy really brave, even since he was a little boy. And there's a story in the Bible, we all know it, about Caleb and Joshua. They go into the giant country and they come back with a good report. And so we called our son not only Caleb, but Caleb Joshua, because he is doubly bold and strong and has such a tenacious spirit.
So I thought it wise to ask the kids the question, what do you think people don't know about your mother? So we didn't test whether it has got her approval. I'll go first. What you don't know about my wife is that if there is a fly in the house, nobody goes to bed until it's dead and the evidence is presented. You can't go like it's dead. No, the living dead body has got to be presented. And God forbid another one go, everybody's out of the bed, the fly hunt start. Caleb, what don't they know about her?
So one of the things that I thought about, and you've probably all experienced one of these moments when you're like either driving down the road and you see like 45 duck cross the road and you can't believe how many you just saw, or you're at the mall and you see the shirt or pants that are on sale and it was originally like $100 and you got it for $10. I love those stories, so I race home to go tell my mom, and it starts off with, how many ducks do you think I saw, or how much do you think I got this for? Now you want her to say like 10 or 12, and you go, no, 45. My mom has this annoying and incredible gift of saying 45, and you go, yeah, 45. You got it right. That's how it went.
A thing you don't know about my mother is once upon a life ago, she actually worked at a perfume company. And when her and my dad were deciding what to name me, my name is from the perfume Chloe. So she has got a wicked good nose. She can smell garbage from the other side of the house. And that's something you don't know.
I've got a few things. I'm wrestling with the two with the least impact. The one that I think, I'll tell you the one with least impact. I know if it's raining in Rochester and I'm traveling international or national and I come home, I ask her, what are we eating? If she says it's crock pot, I know it's raining. Whenever it looks like it's raining, we're going to get crock pot, whether we want it or not. I'm going to tell you another one. My wife carries, have you ever heard of a sleep sack? Have you ever?
They are $19 at Bed Bath & Beyond.
It's two sheets sewn together, and you can climb like in the top. She travels with a sleep sack wherever we go. If she has the least suspicion that room service didn't change the sheets, she sleeps in a sleep sack on top of the bed. because God forbid some germ from wherever is going to crawl on her and paralyze her for the rest of her life.
And then lastly, my sister and I, as we grew up, we always thought my mom had a special in with those Disney characters. You know when you go to Disney parks and you can line up and get a signature from each one of the Disney characters? Well, we would be in a long line and my mom would tell us, I have a special in with them. I'll go behind the scenes and I'll go meet them. So come to find out, all these years later, she would go behind a tree, fake the signature, and come back with Minnie Mouse's signature. But we had full signature books at Disney World.
It was only about like 5 billion degrees out there. And I don't know if you've been to Disney World, man, you become a little creative. But it's all it's deception, right? Mothers, some things we just have to do. But, as we think back, I think of all of us as moms, we all struggle with the sense of, am I enough? Am I doing this right? And many people, when you mention the word mother, we get all kinds of ideas in our head. Some think of June Cleaver, some of the older generation amongst us. Some think Martha Stewart, Mother Teresa, even Angelina Jolie, some of us. But, we think of this woman who has an immaculate house, and this woman who not only does the laundry, but she matches her socks and she folds it, but hear this, and gets it into the closet. Now that is next level. If you get your laundry into the closet, Mama, I applaud you. And we think this woman is someone who works out 4 times a week and prays every morning, bakes her own bread, makes her own baby food. But in reality, can we just agree today that this woman doesn't exist? Amen? Yeah. At least not all in the same season. Here's my story. I gained so much weight when I fell pregnant. And I salute my beautiful friends who get back to their pre-baby weight. But I still tell people when I bump into them that I carry a lot of baby weight. I've had 2 children. I carry baby weight. And then when they ask me, well, how old is your baby? I just say 18. They don't need to know that he's 18 years and not 18 months. But, I struggled with postpartum depression a lot. And I know there are mommies in this room, who struggle with that. It's a reality. And there was no alone time when I was little, when I was young and my kids were little. And the only time I felt that I could be alone was when I was blow drying my hair, because they literally could not speak louder than the hairdryer. And so as a young mommy, I used to blow wave my hair and wash my hair quite often. And to this day, I still can't find matching socks. And like most working mamas, when I'm at work, I feel I should be at home. And when I'm at home, I feel I should be at work. And when we just moved to America in '99, and we were getting adjusted, we had one vehicle, and Pierre would come home very late at night with our one little Suzuki. Remember that little car we had? You could push a fork right through the window, literally. It was plastic. And I could hear this car, because it didn't have what's the thing that goes brrrr at the back?
We were not that poor.
No,
She's
no.
making all of this stuff up.
But
It didn't
was.
have a muffler for a
It
season.
didn't have a muffler.
Just the
So
season.
I could hear him approach, and as soon as the Suzuki, whatever little matchbox came up the driveway, I would run out the back as far as my legs could carry me, and I would just say, they're all yours, for a couple of hours. I know I'm not the only one, but we constantly step back and take a look at parenting. And every time you think, okay, now I've just got it right, you get another child, and it all changes, the rules change. But over the years, as I look at my beautiful family, I think we've gotten many things wrong. I do. I think there's regrets. I think we all have regrets. But there are a few things that we have held onto through the seasons of life that we feel by the grace of God, perhaps these have been treasures for us. And those are the things that we'd like to share with you today.
It was quite hard to narrow the things that we thought would matter because, as you know, we're not here to elevate ourselves as much as we are drawing a very flat playing field, because our lives are your lives and your lives are our lives. The same thing that you struggle, same thing we struggle. But there is a few things that I think, if I look at these amazing kids, and they really are amazing kids, they love Jesus and been serving in God's house from a young age, and we tuck them in at night still, and there's peace in the home. We began to ask the question, what of these things could we say if we had to put a message in a bottle? Hey, try these things, no guarantees, but just try them. And one of the things is that Marlies has been the kids' greatest cheerleader. And I'm going to ask Caleb if he wants to share some of that perspective.
So my initial reaction when I think of my mom being my cheerleader, I think of all the times where I've done something well and she's applauded me and she's hugged me and she's kissed me and celebrated my victories. But as I began to think more about what a cheerleader's purpose is, if you think of it in the context of sports, their job is to cheer on a team that's losing to help them to win. And that's exactly what my mom's been in my life. As I've gone through times where I've struggled, whether it's with balancing school, church, and all my friends and all the different circles that you find yourself in, what she's done an incredible job is cheer me on and challenge me from a posture of love as a cheerleader. And she's set the bar high for me because she knows I can achieve it, and that's how she's been a cheerleader. And to put a wider scope on this, there's a lot of spiritual mothers in the room who don't actually have kids, but you find yourselves helping and guiding those and the daughters around you, the spiritual daughters, and you too are finding yourself in a place where you need to cheer them on and help them when they feel like they're losing to become victorious in life. I know I've seen my mom open her arms wide to take in not just us and cheer us on, but so many spiritual daughters, and the importance of helping us not just celebrate the victories, but cheer us on to become losing to winning and to be victorious in life.
If there's one thing I could add, our family, though not perfect, has always had a narrative of love. In hurt, there's been love. In mistakes, love. In victory, love. In failure, love. You can't guarantee with the future what's to come. We all know that. But what you can ensure is that you're investing love in little moments. And my mom has really been an incredible champion at this. I read this quote a few years ago that actually really stuck with me. The writer says, "Children will run from law and they'll run from grace. The ones who run from law never come back, but the ones who run from grace always come back. Grace draws its own back home." I've run from even grace, but I've come back. Love and encouragement will always draw your children home.
Now, there is this beautiful thing that I have seen Marlies do. Whenever the kids mess up, she has a lot of grace to almost choose to be blind to those things. I freak the heck out. Because as a dad, now we've got to clean it, we've got to pay for it, and who's going to do? You know what I mean, guys? We want to fix things. And Marlies, just share with us a little bit of your perspective, why you ignored those things. What was the bigger picture?
I've always just had this deep, internal belief that for a mother, it's important to miss a few things that our kids do wrong on purpose. Now, I want to just clarify that. Moms know everything. I mean, moms just know. You know what your kid's up to. You know what they're thinking. It's that thing that God has just given us. But if we are continually coming down on them in a hard way, trying to let them live up to our standards and never make them feel like they can fall and fail and flourish and succeed in our own household, I think over time that creates a lot of emotional distance. And so I personally have been mindful of that. Colossians 3 verse 21 says, "Parents, don't come down too hard on your children or you'll crush their spirits." There's another version that actually says, "Nag." Now, I don't want you to think that I'm saying turn your eyes on bad behavior. But one of the examples I could tell you about my 18-year-old son, man, I'm telling you, his room, I don't know what happens in there. I don't know. I'm convinced the tornado that recently was called for here in Rochester landed in my son's bedroom. Because I loved things to be organized and neat, there are times when I walk past his room that I actually feel traumatized. I'm terrified. I don't know what's growing in his room. And so I choose at times to close the door, because here's the truth. My son at times has one of the busiest lives in our family. He's getting straight A's at school. He's navigating life well. He's loving. He's got great friends. He works. He's a great leader in the church. And, at times I just feel, just cut him that little bit of slack, and so I'll close his room. And when I'm in a really kind mood, I will actually go in and attempt to make at least his bed and leave him a little note, because I just think it matters. Now, my Chloe, Miss Sassy over there, it was a little different with her. When she was about 5, Chloe believed that Caleb was born for her personal entertainment. I mean, that was the reason she had a brother. And I remember at about 5, she took a chocolate cake from the kitchen table. Brother was always following. She tipped it over onto the living room floor. Now, if you're a young mom, every minute matters. I'm sure I had just cleaned it. I was exhausted. And I walked into the scene, chocolate cake everywhere and frosting everywhere on the rug. They were sitting with their little plastic knives, cutting it and having a pretend birthday party. And in that moment, I just looked at that. And, sometimes, Mom, we just need to count to 10. Anybody else have to do this? Breathe in, count to 10, walk away, come back, count to 3, bring the dustpan, and encourage them to pick up the cake. Well, I did all of that because that's what Dr. Spock tells you to do. But when I came back 10 minutes later, Miss Sassy Pants is on the couch, hands behind the head, brother tucked in to her arm, little pensive frown on her face, like real remorse, but the cake has not been touched. And so I go up to her and I said, "Darling, what are you doing?" And she says, "Mommy, I was so naughty. I put myself in timeout."
It's genius. I'm putting myself in timeout more often.
It is kind of clever. Now, I know in that moment I probably could have gone berserk and I could have been angry, but something in me just happened. We all were on our knees cleaning that chocolate cake together, and we ended up really laughing about it. It's become one of the most endearing little stories in our life. So, mamas, your kids need grace through all the seasons of life. And we need to keep a balanced perspective on sometimes just what matters most, because we can fight the battles and lose the war.
That's very true. Now, in our home, we hug a lot. I didn't start out that way. I come from a Dutch family. A Dutch family, they tell you at birth, "We love you," and that remains standing until the day we tell you we don't love you anymore. There was not a lot of physical touch. I was very aware of love, but not affectionate love. When I met Marlies, her family hugs all the time. I think there is another problem, because they hug. You come out of the bathroom, they hug you. You go into the kitchen, they hug you. And all the time they wonder, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" It's crazy, really. But when we had our family, we had to decide, are we going to be a Dutch family or are we going to be that kind of a family? I can tell you this, we became that kind of family. And for me, it is such a gigantic win, because hugging, showing affection, communicates so much. At times when you struggle and you're disappointed in your kids, but you choose to hug them, it's creating the bond of acceptance long before you've worked out the issue. So for us, both my daughter, my son, and when we walk together now, as you can see, she's a woman. When we walk down and we go shopping together and we hold each other so tight, I go like, "They're going to think I'm a pervert, baby. Stand sideways." Do you know what I mean? I've got this like sweet 22-year-old in my arm, and my son and I, we always just very close. And I want to thank my wife for that privilege. But Caleb, on the other hand, has got more Dutch in him, right?
Yeah, I would say naturally I would be more Dutch. So in the terms of like love languages, physical touch is kind of at the bottom. Like my mom would clean my room, that'd be acts of service. That's at the top. I love that. Keep doing that, please. But other than that, physical touch isn't always my favorite thing. However, in different stages of my life, it's looked different, and it's always been a necessity. Whether it was when I was young, my mom would tuck me in, and at some point that stops, and no longer do I need to be tucked in. But now as I'm older and I'm constantly busy, sometimes stressed, and things get a little bit crazy, physical touch and the affection, so it looks different. Sometimes it's me just jumping on their bed and laying down, and my mom will scratch my back. sometimes I get home and I have a loss for words, and just one hug helps me and helps me to take a deep breath and calm down and relax a little bit. So even sometimes when I push it away, it's still a necessity. So moms, I challenge you, even for your sons who maybe give you the stiff arm, kind of juke them out a little bit and give them a hug every now and then, because it is necessity, even though sometimes we tend to push that away.
I want to finish this thought by this one statement. Moms, you've been given the power to restore affection. When there is no affection in your home, moms, you've been given the power to restore affection. Because when you do, your children will carry that as a gift into their future. Now, the second last thing that I want to start the conversation is being present and to stay up if you need to. In our home, you tell them, Marlies.
Well, I think before we even go there, maybe Chloe, I know there was something we discussed earlier today, and you were talking about creating traditions. And I'd like to just cut in there for a moment and talk about that.
This is going to sound quite a morbid transition, but I want to talk about funerals.
Nailed it.
Funerals are extremely sobering places, and I think we can all attest to that if you've ever been to a funeral. They ignite every heart with this common theme that every single one of us is just borrowed breath. Our life will be here today and gone tomorrow. There's this beautiful story I read a few years ago by Max Lucado, and I just want to briefly read it to you. So follow me as I read. Hot sun, salty air, rhythmic waves. A little boy is on the beach. On his knees, he scoops and packs sand into a bright red bucket. To the delight of the little architect, a castle tower is created. All afternoon, he will work, spooning out the moat, packing the walls, popsicle sticks will be bridges, a sandcastle will be built. Big city, busy streets, rumbling traffic, a man is in an office. At his desk, he shuffles papers into stacks and delegates assignments. Numbers are juggled, contracts signed, and much to the delight of the man, a profit is made. All of his life he will work, formulating, forecasting, an empire is built. Two builders of two castles, they both have much in common. They see nothing and they make something out of it. They are diligent and they are determined. And for both, the tide will rise and the end will come. Yet, that is where the similarities cease. For the boy sees the end and the man ignores it. Watch the boy as the dusk approaches. As the waves near, the wise child jumps to his feet and begins to clap. There is no sorrow, there is no fear, and no regret. He knew this would happen. He's not surprised. And when the great breaker crashes into his castle and his masterpiece is sucked into the sea, he smiles, picks up his tools, takes his father's hand, and goes home. The grown-up, however, is not so wise. As the waves of years collapse on his castle, he's terrified. He hovers over the sandy monument to protect it. He blocks the waves from the wall he has made. But the ocean need not respond. Both know to whom the sand belongs. What I think this story illustrates is that our family is building sandcastles. With every moment we seize, we build a sandcastle. Not out of fear, but out of grabbing minutes and hours and days with both hands and stealing them against the inevitability of time, the waves to come. My mom has taught us how to seize our moments in every season, create little traditions that do just this, from our Christmas PJs on Christmas morning to birthday celebrations in bed to trips to the park and then trips through, we've done California, West Coast last year. Every season has looked actually a lot different, but the principle of memory making has never changed. And the funniest thing is, all these years later, my mom isn't the only one creating the traditions anymore. She's actually transferred the value. One day, there will be a day where our family as we know it will cease to exist. The waves will come. And I don't want to be terrified or build an empire that doesn't mean anything. To me, I actually believe that this is the greatest empire you can build. I want to know that I took as many opportunities to get pizza with my dad, cuddle with my mom, watch stupid, hilarious YouTube videos with my brother. And I'm so grateful for my mom for creating the value of seizing moments and creating little traditions, setting tables, making something out of nothing. Time is enough when you weigh it down with gratitude by making memories of it.
Oh, it's beautiful. So I'm going to ask that we go to the last point, living an inspiring life and loving Jesus yourself.
Yeah, I'll start. My mom is someone I entirely inspire to be like. She's a writer, she's an encourager, she's a perfume worker lady. She's a flower arranger, she's a pastor, a hostess, a caregiver, a strategist, a traveler, a leader, homemaker, designer, could go on, and those things aren't remotely even in order. I grew up getting to watch my mom pursue the unique call of God on her life, pursue her dreams, be in a place of leadership in this very church. But as I grew older, I realized that this wasn't actually a reality that most women lived in, or that most women were granted. And what I've perhaps come to understand so far is that when women fail to pursue the unique call of God in their life, no one wins. When they fail to develop the special gifts God's placed in their heart, our families don't win, our churches don't win, our society doesn't win, and most importantly, I don't think they win. We may see great conscious mamas who pray for us, love us, want the best for us, but we don't get to see happy mamas fully alive in God. So, mamas, can I beg you, don't rob us of that, and don't rob yourself of that. We want authentically alive moms finding their voice and their call from God, and the truth is, it's actually never too late to start. I've watched my mom develop an ear towards these specific things, and it's changed actually so much over the years, evolved even. And most recently, she's pioneered sisterhood, which has been a dream, a God dream for her, watching women find love and value, and then in turn placing love and value in others. As I grow up and life evolves for me like it should, and I continue to join God on his mission on this beautiful earth, I think that there will be temptations to sit on the sidelines because of the logistics of wanting to be a wife, a mom, a daughter, a sister, a pastor, a florist, maybe a traveler, a stylist. I think those things will evolve. But I think watching my mom, watching her pursue the things that she feels called to uniquely, she would be the first to encourage me to avoid the temptation to make life small because your children are watching. So if my mom could tell me anything, what she's taught me is to love Jesus, listen to his spirit, and pursue the unique God call on your life.
That is beautiful. Well done. Yeah. It's even hard to just sit up here and not want to just cry because, you realize what a gift it is to be the mother of children, be they your spiritual children or your biological children. But I think one of the most important things to remember today, mamas, is that you are not doing this on your own, that you are partnering with a God that knew your kids before they were even fashioned, and that your example profoundly impacts their life and their destiny. And sometimes, we can do a million things wrong, but if we can show them this one thing, that our pursuit of Jesus and taking steps with God in our lives is what shows them how to trust God, how to obey him, how to love him. And that will outlast anything. My mom passed away in 2002. She was only 67. She was my best friend. I myself have a great story and a testimony of my mom praying and believing for me. I was a prodigal daughter, ran away from home for a season. But my mom believed, she never stopped believing that I would come back home and back home to Jesus. And I had this most treasured possession, this journal that she kept in that year, during that year, and she'd write to me because she didn't see me, but she'd write to me. And on the front page, she wrote Galatians 4, verse 17, and it's where Paul says, I am travailing again in birth for you, in labor for you, that you will come to know Jesus fully. And I never understood that as a young girl, but as I am a mother now of growing kids, I realized what my mom was trying to say was, yes, I birthed you. I birthed you into this world, that there's a kind of labor, my darling, that far exceeds the labor that happened one morning in a hospital in Johannesburg, South Africa. It's the labor where I've gone on my knees to pray for you and intercede for you and seek for you and pray God's will over your life. And it's laboring again that Christ be formed in you. And so whatever phase of life you are, mothers, I pray that you will grasp this concept of understanding that God is partnering with you over this season. I pray that my kids, I pray that your kids today, that they won't look back and remember a perfect mama, which isn't possible, but that they will remember a mama that was always changing, pursuing, improving, sometimes doing things afraid, creating a wake so that the generation behind us can grow just a little taller. And then that beautiful scripture in Proverbs 24 says, a house is built by wisdom, and it becomes stronger through good sense. And through knowledge, its rooms are filled with all sorts of precious riches. And mothers, today, think about it. You get to build that house. This is the beautiful entrustment of heaven to you. Build it well, build it stable, speak words of love. And if you look at your house today and it doesn't look what you want it to look like, it can change, because God's word is a promise. It's a yes and amen. And even if it takes years to come to fruition or mature, can I just encourage you today that God's word will never fail you, and it's never too late.